was just after 2 a.m. and the place was dead. The only sound was the occasional sizzle of the grill as my coworker, Ray, prepped some food for the morning shift. I was wiping down the counter when I noticed a figure standing outside, just beyond the glow of the diner's neon sign. At first, I thought it was just another traveler stretching their legs, but the longer I watched, the more I realized something was off. He wasn't moving. He was just standing there, perfectly still, facing the diner. I tried to shake it off. Maybe he was just waiting for someone. Maybe he was lost. But something about the way he stood there, stiff and unnatural, sent a chill down my spine. A few minutes passed, and just as I was about to look away, he moved. Not toward the door like I expected, but to the side, disappearing into the darkness. I walked around the counter, trying to get a better look, but he was gone. Then the bell above the door chimed. I turned, and there he was, standing just inside the entrance, wearing a dark hoodie with the hood pulled up, his face mostly hidden in the shadows. His hands were deep in his pockets, and for a moment, he just stood there, silent. Ray called out from the back, asking if I needed help. But before I could answer, the man finally spoke. "You work alone?" His voice was flat, almost emotionless. I forced a polite smile and shook my head. "Nah, just me and the cook." He didn't react to my answer. Instead, he slowly tilted his head, like he was studying me. Then, just as suddenly as he had appeared, he turned and walked back outside. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Weird, but not the weirdest customer I'd ever had. I figured he was just passing through, maybe looking for a bathroom and changing his mind. But when I looked back outside, I saw him again, standing in the exact same spot as before, motionless, watching. I tried to ignore him, went about my tasks, refilled the napkin dispensers, wiped the tables. But every time I glanced up, he was still there. And then, the lights flickered just for a second, just enough to make my stomach drop. Ray must have noticed my unease because he came out from the kitchen, drying his hands on a towel. "What's up, man? You look like you've seen a ghost." I nodded toward the window. "That guy's been standing out there for almost 15 minutes now." Ray frowned, moving to get a better look. But when we both turned back to the window, he was gone. I exhaled. Maybe he really had just moved on. I shook my head, laughing it off. But then the phone rang. It was the landline, the old one we barely ever used. I hesitated, then picked it up. Hello? Silence. Then, breathing. Shallow, slow, right into the receiver. My heart pounded. "Who is this?" The line went dead. I turned to Ray, but before I could say anything, the power cut out completely. Everything went dark. The only light came from the headlights of a single car passing by on the highway. Then, a knock. Not on the front door, but the back one. The one that led to the alley behind the diner. Ray grabbed a flashlight, and we both stood there, frozen. Another knock, louder this time. I swallowed hard. Maybe it's just the breaker guy? But we both knew that was a lie. No one worked on power lines at 2 a.m. Ray moved first, slowly making his way to the back door. He held up the flashlight, and for a split second, as the beam swept across the small window in the door, we saw him, the man in the hoodie. Only this time, he wasn't alone. There were 3 of them, standing in the alley, motionless, waiting. Ray didn't hesitate. He slammed the deadbolt shut and grabbed his phone. "I'm calling the cops." But before he could dial, we heard it. The scraping sound of metal against metal. Someone was trying to pry the door open. We didn't wait. We ran, straight out the front door, into the parking lot. I didn't even stop to grab my keys. We sprinted to Ray's truck, jumped in, and peeled out onto the highway. As we sped away, I looked back. The diner was dark, the windows blackened, but just as we turned the corner, I saw movement. 3 figures, standing just outside the door, watching us leave. The cops never found them. When they arrived, the back door was open, but there was no sign of forced entry. No footprints, nothing. Ray quit the next day. I lasted a little longer, but I never worked another night shift again. Sometimes, I wonder what would have happened if we hadn't left. If we had waited just a little longer, let them get inside. But then I remember that feeling, that overwhelming certainty that whatever they wanted, it wasn't just to rob us. And I don't think we would have made it out alive.